Imagine a remote, storm-lashed rock in the vast, cold expanse of the North Atlantic. On this rock, a brand new lighthouse stands as a solitary beacon of hope against the raging sea. But what happens when that light, the very symbol of safety and certainty, suddenly goes out? What happens when the keepers, entrusted with its flame, vanish without a trace? Today, we journey back to the turn of the 20th century to unravel one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of all time: the disappearance of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse keepers. The year is 1900. The Flannan Isles, a small, uninhabited group of islands about 20 miles west of the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, are notorious among sailors. Their jagged cliffs and treacherous currents have claimed countless ships. To combat this danger, the Northern Lighthouse Board had just completed a state-of-the-art lighthouse on Eilean Moor, the largest of the islands, only a year earlier. It was a marvel of engineering, a powerful symbol of man's defiance against the wildness of nature. 3 men were tasked with manning this lonely outpost: James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur. Ducat, the principal keeper, was a seasoned veteran with over 2 decades of service. Marshall, the second assistant, was also an experienced mariner. MacArthur, the third assistant, was a tough, hardy man known for his quick temper but also his reliability. A fourth man, Joseph Moore, was the relief keeper, who would rotate in to give the others a break. In mid-December, it was his turn to be on shore leave. These weren't just employees. They were a tight-knit team, bound by the shared solitude and immense responsibility of their post. Their lives were governed by a strict routine: trimming the wick, polishing the great lens, and keeping meticulous records in the daily logbook. The first sign that something was wrong came on December 15th. The steamer Archdor, on its route from Philadelphia to Leith, passed the islands and noted in its log that the light was not operational, a serious and unusual failure, especially given the poor weather conditions. But due to a mix-up and the storm, the report wasn't immediately relayed to the Northern Lighthouse Board. For days, the lighthouse remained dark, a blind eye staring into the tempestuous sea. No one on the mainland knew the fate of the men on Eilean Moor. The official discovery was made on Boxing Day, December 26, 1900. The lighthouse tender ship, the Hesperus, arrived at Eilean Moor to deliver supplies and to rotate Joseph Moore back into duty. As they approached the island, an eerie feeling settled over the crew. The usual signs of welcome were absent. There was no flag flying from the pole. No one was there to greet them at the landing stage. Captain Jim Harvey of the Hesperus sounded the ship's horn and fired a flare, hoping to get a response. But the only reply was the cry of seabirds and the crashing of waves against the cliffs. The island was unervingly silent. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, was the first to go ashore. The sense of dread must have been overwhelming as he climbed the steep stone steps leading up to the lighthouse. He found the main gate to the compound closed, as was the door to the living quarters. Everything seemed locked up tight, as if the keepers had just stepped out. He knocked, then shouted their names. Silence. Finally, he managed to get the door open and stepped inside. What he found only deepened the mystery. The first thing he noticed was the cold, dead hearth. The fire had been out for days. On the kitchen table, a meal of meat and potatoes lay uneaten. A single chair was overturned, as if someone had jumped up from the table in a great hurry. The clocks had all stopped. The keepers' beds were unmade, and their oilskins, their heavy-duty waterproof gear for facing the harsh Atlantic weather, were gone. All 3 of them, But here's where it gets truly strange. In the keeper's logbook, the entries were routine until December 12th. Thomas Marshall wrote of severe winds the likes of which I have never seen before, and noted that James Ducat had been very quiet and William MacArthur had been crying. This was bizarre. MacArthur was known as a tough, brawling sailor, not a man given to tears. And these men were seasoned professionals, accustomed to violent storms. Why would this one affect them so profoundly? The entry for December 13th spoke of the storm still raging, and how all three men had been praying. Praying? These were stoic, hardened men of the sea. What could have terrified them to this extent? The final entry, on December 15th, was brief and chilling. Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all. And then nothing. The log ended. The men were gone. A more thorough search of the island by the crew of the Hesperus revealed more perplexing clues. The landing platform on the western side of the island showed signs of significant storm damage. A supply box, which had been secured in a crevice 110 feet above sea level, had been smashed open and its contents scattered. Iron railings were bent and twisted, and a section of the path itself had been washed away. A huge block of stone, weighing over a ton, had been dislodged. The power of the sea here is almost unimaginable. The official explanation, concluded by Robert Muirhead, the superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board who conducted the investigation, was that the men had been swept away by a freak wave. The theory goes like this. On the afternoon of December 15th, after the storm had passed, Ducat and Marshall went down to the western landing to secure the ropes and crane. They were then hit by a series of unexpectedly massive waves that surged up the cliff face, washing them into the sea. When they didn't return, MacArthur, the third keeper, went out to look for them, perhaps without even taking the time to put on his coat, and was met with the same tragic fate. This explains why one set of oilskins was left behind, and why the meal was left uneaten. It's a plausible theory. It fits some of the evidence, but it leaves so many questions unanswered. Why were experienced keepers, who knew the dangers of the sea better than anyone, out on the exposed landing stage during such treacherous conditions? The rules of the Lighthouse Board explicitly forbade all three men from leaving the lighthouse at the same time. Why would they break such a fundamental rule? And what about the strange logbook entries? The reports of a man crying, the intense praying, the descriptions of a storm so severe that it terrified veteran keepers? Official weather reports from the surrounding area didn't indicate a storm of that magnitude on those specific dates. Was the logbook authentic, or was it something else? Over the last century, countless alternative theories have emerged, ranging from the plausible to the outright fantastical. Some suggest a fight broke out. Perhaps the volatile William MacArthur snapped, killed the other two, and then threw himself into the sea in a fit of remorse. This could explain the overturned chair, but it doesn't explain why all three sets of oilskins were taken. Another theory points to espionage or abduction. The lighthouse was a strategic asset. Could foreign agents have landed on the island to gain information, abducting the keepers in the process? Or perhaps they were taken by pirates or smugglers they had stumbled upon. While exciting, there's absolutely no evidence to support these ideas. No foreign vessels were reported in the area, and it seems an incredibly risky and convoluted way to achieve any objective. And then, of course, we enter the realm of the supernatural. The Flannan Isles have a long history of strange folklore. Eilean Mor itself means Big Isle in Gaelic, but it was also known as the Other Country, a place with an otherworldly reputation. Shepherds refused to stay on the island overnight, believing it was inhabited by spirits or little people. Some have suggested the keepers were driven mad by the intense solitude and fell victim to some shared psychosis. Or perhaps they were taken by a sea serpent, a ghost ship, or even abducted by aliens. One poem inspired by the event, titled Flannan Isle by Wilfred Wilson Gibson, ends with the haunting line, "We had no mortal quarrel. We are trapped by things that crawl." So what really happened to James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur? The truth is, we will probably never know for sure. The official explanation of a rogue wave remains the most likely, despite its inconsistencies. It's a stark reminder of the awesome, unpredictable power of the ocean. The force required to rip iron railings from stone and move a 1-ton block 110 feet above sea level is difficult to comprehend. Perhaps a wave of that magnitude is all the explanation we need. But the mystery endures because it speaks to our deepest fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of nature's untamable power, and the chilling idea of vanishing without a trace, leaving behind only silence and questions. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse still stands today, fully automated since 1971. Its bright light cuts through the darkness, a constant, reliable presence. But for those who know its story, it also serves as a lonely monument to 3 men who walked out into a storm one December day and into the pages of history, leaving behind a mystery that continues to haunt and fascinate us over 120 years later. What do you think happened? A tragic accident, a dark crime, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy diving into historical mysteries like this one, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. See you next time.